Hi, I'm Carlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, hello. Happy Monday. Welcome to The Cult. The Cult is a show that I stream at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday on YouTube, on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, and on Rumble, where we talk about all aspects of the culture war, but with a heavy emphasis on the far left, because the far left control everything. The far left are causing more problems. The far left are way more dangerous than the right at this particular juncture. And so that is where we spend the bulk of our time. And my, oh my, it has been an interesting morning. Afternoon? I think it's afternoon. Morning or afternoon, really. For those of you who are on X or Twitter, I can't call it X. I'm sorry, Elon. I'm sorry. I can't call it X. It will always be Twitter to me. For those of you who are on Twitter, you may have gotten wind that there's been some excitement on Twitter this morning. There has been some thievery again of my journalism. Did I tell you guys this was going to happen last week? Or did I tell you guys this was going to happen last week? Let's all go on a journey back to last Thursday. Do you guys remember last Thursday? Last Thursday was when I reported and did an entire stream about a family in Montana. And the family in Montana had released this video on the internet talking about how Child Protective Services in Montana had basically kidnapped their teenage daughter to take her out of state, to send her to a clinic that did gender-affirming care, And they did this all in violations of the parents' wishes because the parents didn't want her to have that type of care. They wanted her to stay in Montana. Well, Child Protective Services didn't like that, took the child out of state, and is now trying to send the child to Canada. And the judge in the case, and they're trying to terminate the parents' parental rights, and the judge in the case ordered the video to be taken off the internet because he put a gag order on the parents. Well, of course, nothing ever gets taken off the internet. And before the parents took the video down, someone else had downloaded the video, put it up on Rumble. It wasn't the parents that did that. That video got into the hands of our friend Gabrielle Clark. Gabrielle Clark runs a coaching company called Affirming Reality. She works with parents whose kids have been sucked in by gender ideology to help them get their kids back. She helps them find lawyers. She does yeoman's work. She is the very best in the business at what she does. If you, excuse me, if you have kids in school, and you are not following the work that Gabrielle Clark is doing, you need to follow the work that Gabrielle Clark is doing. She's at Gabs Clark 5 on Twitter. Her business is called Affirming Reality. And so I strongly recommend everyone look into her. Well, I've been working with Gabs a long time because Gabs was the mother who filed the first ever lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. And I broke that story too back in the day. So I've known Gabs a long time. When Gabs got the video of these parents and started working with them, I was the first person that she sent the video to because, friends hook up friends. But Gabs also sent the video out to other places, which she should have. And I want to make that very, very clear. My position on this is not that other places shouldn't have been covering this story. Other places absolutely should have been covering this story. They should have done it a lot sooner than they did. But, I'm an independent journalist. That means I have a little bit more flexibility in the work that I do because I don't have to go through approval or any of that. I just get the stories out there, man. I view my job as just getting the information out there, and then whatever comes of that information comes of it, okay? So I got the story out there as quick as I could. I got it up on Twitter that day. It got like 100,000 views within like 24 hours or so. So it had a good bit of reach. There were some larger accounts retweeting it, whatever. I had the story on my Substack, and I did a 2-hour stream about the story on my channel. I wiped out everything else I was going to do, and I said, we're going to focus on this story because this is more important. These parents need help. And then I said to people, after when I covered the story last week, I said to people, watch who covers this after me. Watch who comes after me, because I was the first person to cover this story. Okay? Because I have been doing independent journalism on and off for 3.5 years. I haven't been doing it consistently that whole time. When I first started doing independent journalism, I would do these deep dive stories that would take me like a month to be able to do. And I've gotten much better at it now because I've had to learn on the fly because I never expected to be an independent journalist. But I've been doing this a long time. And I will tell you that every major story that I have broken, up to and including the Coke Be Less White story, has been stolen from me and appropriated by conservative influencers to get credit and clicks and clout and cash. Now, some people might say, Carlin, you should just be happy the story's out there. Well, I am happy the story's out there, but I'm an independent journalist. I am the one digging through some of the most boring stuff you will find all day, every day, to try to find stories like this. I'm the one going undercover at events, paying for it out of my pocket. I am the one that spends hours upon hours upon hours upon hours every single week watching woke training, many times funded by the taxpayer. I'm the one who stays up till all hours of the night to formulate those things into stories, to make clips, to make sure that I'm writing things in a way that is really simple and easy to understand. I'm the one doing all of that. And the only way that I get funding for what I do is when people know where it comes from. And I got to tell you, I have a lot of experience with this now. It is very, 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 very predictable that every single time I break a story like this, the conservative influencers will swoop in and claim they were the ones to do it, or claim their friends were the one to do it and it wasn't me, even though date stamps prove otherwise. And we have another instance of that today. And so I want to tell you guys about this, but I want to be very, very clear in what I'm saying. Thank you for the super chat. Carlin was right again. I want to be very clear what I'm saying before we get into this, which is that I am glad that the story is getting more coverage today than it was when I broke it 4 days ago. However, that doesn't mean I find it acceptable for other people to swoop in and claim 4 days after I broke this story that they have an exclusive. Because if someone breaks a story 4 days before you, Redux magazine, and then 4 days after that story is broken, you release an article claiming you have an exclusive, that's unacceptable. And it is especially unacceptable for a feminist magazine throwing a female independent journalist under the bus to lie for no good reason. For no good reason. And I say that, well, you know what? Let's dig in, because people might not know what actually happened. So I need to bring people up to speed on what actually happened. So a couple hours ago, and let me just before we get to that, guys, please remember to subscribe to my Substack, which is Carlin, Karlyn, .substack.com. You can subscribe for free, and when you subscribe for free, you will be the very first to hear these stories before conservative influencers start stealing them and claiming credit for themselves. Because every single time this has happened, my story has been on my Substack and then on my Twitter, and then all of a sudden, magically, everyone else is taking credit for it when we have clear date stamps. So if you want to be the very first to know what's going on, and by the way, a lot of the stories that I report on my Substack never get reported in conservative media. A lot of the stuff that I talk about never breaks through into conservative media because it's not spicy enough for them, and they only like the really spicy clickbait stuff. Oh, I know who it is, Chad. I know who it is. Anna replied to me today on Twitter, and I'm going to show you Anna's response. Anna, super feminist, throwing female independent journalists under the bus. Isn't that so feminist of her? So feminist. Oh my God. This is why people hate feminists, by the way. This is why people hate you guys. So if you want to be the first to know what's going on, sign up for my Substack. And if you want to support my work with $8 a month or $80 a year, all of the profits I make on Substack get reinvested into doing this, because it sucks up all of my time, it sucks up a lot of my money, and it needs to get paid for somehow. And so how I pay for it is through subscriptions on my Substack. $8 a month, $80 a year. I would really like to get about 400 new paying subscribers in the next couple of months. I know that sounds like a lot, but the reality is I've done this little game called Fun with Math. And if I get about 400 new paying subscribers, That's going to allow me to do a metric ton of undercover journalism, and I really want to do it. But I can't do it if I don't have the funding. And when places like REDUXX magazine are claiming they have exclusives on stories that I broke 4 goddamn days before them, it makes it harder to get support, because then everyone's going over there and they're like, oh my God, REDUXX, you're the best. Well, not really. Not really. Not really. So again, guys, I would really appreciate it if you could help me out. Head over to the Substack, sign up for a monthly gift of $8 a month, less than you're going to pay for a cup of coffee at Starbucks, or $80 a year. I really, really, really do appreciate it. Another way you can support my work is by heading over to my main website, which is activelyunwoke.com/support. And there you're going to have all the ways you can support my work, including making a one-time gift. If you just want to make a one-time donation, you can do it through there. You can subscribe on my Substack, buy merch in my merch store. There are a couple other options as well. I just prefer monthly or annual donations because that allows me to plan and know how much money is coming in. Whereas one-time gifts, very, very nice. And some of you are super generous with your one-time gifts, and I love it. Don't get it twisted. So like, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. But I just really like the recurring gifts because they allow me to plan and be a little bit more pragmatic about things. And I really do appreciate it. All right. So what happened today? Well, I found out about this when Libs of Tik Tok posted the story from REDUXX magazine that I reported on last week about this Montana family that lost custody of their teenage daughter, and then the daughter was taken out of state to be put in the gender affirmation clinic in Wyoming. And so basically, as soon as Libs of Tik Tok posted this, Bot tagged me on Twitter, and Bot was right in there. Like, within minutes of Libs of Tik Tok posting this, Bot was like, Carlin covered this last week. And so then I got in and I said, hey, Libs of Tik Tok, it's really, really nice that you're covering this, but I broke this story last week, but it's really great that you guys were able to catch up with me. Awesome, awesome work, Libs of Tik Tok. Awesome job. I'm really happy that you guys made it to the party. I got to the party first. I got to the party 4 fucking days ago. But it's really great that you're here. And then you know what happened? Check this out. Elon Musk replied to me. Elon fucking Musk replied to me on Twitter. And it was just like, taken from Montana to Wyoming. And then I said, yes, Elon, here is the story. But I got to tell you guys, when Elon Musk first replied to me, I was like, I had a moment where I was like, oh my God. And I yelled for Victor. I was like, Victor, Elon Musk replied to me. And Victor's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Carlin? And then Victor had to come up and look, and he was like, okay. So that was rad. My first Elon Musk reply. Hopefully the first of many. Elon, I do better journalism than all the people you follow, I swear. So that was pretty great. And it got a lot more eyes on the story. And I have to say, like, I've actually been really, really thrilled with the amount of people who saw my reply on Libs of Tik Tok, and then just they went to my story directly and started retweeting my story. There were 100,000 more views on the story like that, like instantly, like over, like basically like within like minutes. So that's awesome. More people are seeing this story. More people are seeing the original source of the fucking story. And that's all good. But there's still the problem of REDUXX magazine. And there's something rather, fishy about this screenshot, isn't there? Exclusive. Exclusive? Excuse me, what? Exclusive. Exclusive. Really? Really? REDUXX? Really? You have an exclusive on a story that you posted on January 29th when I posted exactly the same story? on January 25th. Now, I've not always been great at reading calendars because I feel like I operate outside of the calendar. I operate at whatever is exciting to me at any given moment, whatever story I'm working on, all this stuff. So I'm not necessarily one to rely on calendars, but it does seem to me that January 25th is before January 29th. Am I wrong about that? I'm pretty sure like 25th, 26, 27, 28, 29. Now, yes, I mean, perhaps this is it. Perhaps REDUXX magazine has gone completely woke, and their argument is that time is a social construct. And even though they posted the story 4 days after me, because time is a social construct, they really do have an exclusive, even though they posted the story 4 days after I did. Excuse me, what? Now, here's the thing. And I've maintained this throughout my time dabbling in independent journalism. Well, no, they did. Hang on, they did. Here's the thing. I wasn't the only person who got this story. I was just the first one to get it. Gabs' job is to help parents. Gabs and her team sends the story out to various media outlets. REDUXX magazine is one of the media outlets that they sent it to. REDUXX magazine did do something I didn't do, which they did speak directly to the parents. So I'll give them credit for that. But here is the thing. Every single time I have ever covered a story, my hope is that other journalists take the story that I hand them on a silver fucking platter and follow up on it. Just follow up on it. Because after I cover one story, I'm already on to the next thing. It is extremely rare for me to like continue to follow up on the same thing over and over and over again. It's not that I don't do it, but it's just really rare for me to do it because there's so many stories out there that need to be covered that I cover one thing, boom, it's out there. Okay, that's done. Moving on to the next. So I want journalists to come in and do. I have no problem with the fact that REDUXX magazine reached out to the parents and talked to them and maybe got a little bit more information than I had when I originally broke the story. My issue is with them claiming they have an exclusive, which they do not. This was not an exclusive. If REDUXX had just put this out without calling it an exclusive, I would be much less pissed off than I am now. Exactly. This is exactly right. If they would not have gone out of their way to grift with exclusive, this would not be as much of an issue for me. I wanted this story covered. I wanted this story to have eyeballs on it. That's what they're doing. That's fine. But to say that it's not an exclusive 4 days after I fucking released the goddamn story, that's just bullshit, man. That's bullshit. And you know what? You could even say, well, Carlin, Gab sent the story to them too. And so maybe they didn't know that you covered it. Well, you could say that. You could say that my video already had 100,000 views on Twitter by like within 24 hours of me posting it. You could say that even though Gabs retweeted my original story, which means that the people at REDUXX magazine damn well would have known that it had already been posted on the internet. You could say that maybe they just didn't see it, which calls into question, did they really do the journalism they claim they did? But maybe you could say it was just an oversight. They didn't bother to look into it, and they didn't realize that someone else had broken the story 4 days before they did. And if that was the case, that would be like a simple misunderstanding, right? It would be a simple misunderstanding, and the editors of Redux could go, mea culpa, we didn't know that you had already put this out there. We're going to take off the exclusive label, and we're going to make sure we give you credit or something like that. Or maybe they didn't even have to give me credit, like, honestly, but just like saying like we're going to take off the exclusive label because it's not an exclusive because you broke it 4 fucking days ago. They could have just done that and it would have been fine. But do you know what happened? Do you know what happened? Oh, wait for it. Not that one. This one. Okay, so another person who tweeted out the story was Chris Rufo, tweeting out Redux magazine. And I responded to Rufo and I said, I broke this story last week, but really glad to see everyone catching up and claiming it was something they broke days after I did. And then this crazy person, who is the editor-in-chief of Redux magazine, see, the overlord at Redux magazine, Anna, this is Anna, responded to me. So the feminist, the protector of women, the feminist who claimed that she had an exclusive on the story that I broke 4 days before she did, responds to me and said, very glad you also tried to bring attention to it, but reposting a publicly available video that had already been circulating doesn't constitute a scoop. Did you actually speak to the family and or review any of their medical court CFS records? I spent about 10 hours doing so. Well, Anna, the problem, sweetheart, is that the video was not circulating before I posted it on Twitter 4 days before you did. So no, Anna. No, honey. No, oh, protector of women. Can you really, like, imagine the irony of this? Like, honest to God. Honest to God. A woman who is the editor-in-chief of a feminist magazine is throwing a female independent journalist under the bus to say, you didn't do the type of journalism that I did, and therefore your journalism isn't valid. The nerve of this bitch. This is why no one likes feminists. They are insufferable cunts that don't actually really care about women. They only care about themselves. This is, yes, we are living in the land of retardia. Well, it doesn't really matter if they want to admit I'm a journalist or not. My track record is very, very clear on this. I did more independent journalism covering the far left than almost anyone on the planet in 2023. That's just reality. If Anna wants to compare fucking receipts, if Anna wants to compare the number of stories she covered with the number of stories I covered, and my stories don't have any other source but me. I don't know where Anna gets her stories, how many people hand deliver her stories on a silver platter, that then all she has to do is follow up on it. I suss out every single story I cover myself. Either I do it online where I'm finding documents, I'm digging through videos constantly, or I go undercover at the events myself. So if Anna wants to compare receipts to see which one of us did more real journalism last year, I would be more than happy to have that conversation, Anna. After all, you're the editor-in-chief of a feminist magazine, aren't you? You support women, don't you? Don't you want women independent journalists to be successful, Anna? Then why are you stealing my shit? So that's a little fishy. That's a little fishy. Now, of course, Bot and I did call her out on it, and other people did too, because it just, like, again, the issue here is not that Redux Magazine covered it. I wanted people like that to cover it. And truth be told, and I said this before, I'll say it again, I don't actually even really care if they give me credit, because I know that Gabs was pushing that video out. I know that Gabs and her team were reaching out to other publications, which they should have damn well done. But I also know that I was the first to have it. I was the first to report on it. And Anna can do whatever fucking mental gymnastics she wants. But if you're reporting on something 4 days after it originally broke, you do not have an exclusive. I'm sorry, girl. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's just fucking reality, man. And I'll tell you this too. This is one of those things that, like, this shows you how this game is played. Because do you think that Libs of Tik Tok didn't hear about this video last week when I posted it? I'm gonna tell you guys how the game is played. How the conservative influencer game is played. Libs of Tik Tok was absolutely notified of this video last week when I posted it. The problem is that I am not in the club of conservative influencers, many of whom happen to be Jewish and support Israel. I am not in the club. And so it is inconvenient for conservative influencers, many of whom happen to be Jewish and support Israel. It is inconvenient for them to share my work. There is an approved list of conservative influencers. There are people that you're allowed to elevate, and there are people that you are not allowed to elevate. And if you elevate the wrong people, you're going to fucking hear about it. Now, I accepted this a long time ago. I really did. I came to peace with this because after my work had been stolen over and over and over and over and over and over and over again over the course of 3 fucking years. And not only had my work been stolen repeatedly, but I was defamed, I was smeared, my friends and family were dragged through the mud, and I just kept going, man. I just kept going, and I just kept reporting what I wanted to report on, and I kept digging into things, and I got better and better and better and better and better, and then by accident completely reverse engineered the language of the far left in the process, which none of them like to admit either. I came to peace with the fact that conservative influencers would never elevate my journalism. I came to peace with the fact that unless my stories really, really hit and I went just massively viral on Twitter, which is the only platform that these people care about, that my work would not be covered. And if it was covered, it wouldn't be credited to me. I came to peace with that. This really pissed me off for a long ass time. This was part of why I almost quit last year. Because I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Like, I realized, I was like, it doesn't, like, after I went undercover at the socialism conference, and I spent 3 days undercover with like 400 Antifa, and I recorded the president of the American Library Association saying that libraries should be sites of socialist organizing, and they still refused to share it, and they still refused to cover it, and it was stolen by people like Jack Posobiec and Kirk Cameron to sell books without credit. I got so angry after I went undercover at the socialism conference last year and that happened. I got so angry. I was like, fuck these people. None of them are taking the time to actually do this. None of them are taking days out of their schedule to do this. None of them are putting themselves in physical danger like I do to do this. None of them are paying thousands of dollars out of their pocket to do this. None of them are doing this. And still, they won't cover the people who are. Except if they're their BFFs. Then it's okay. Then it's okay. But not if they're not on the approved list, man. And so I got really, really angry about that for a while. And that was one of the things that almost led to me quitting. And then I kind of had to have several conversations with myself where I was like, can you let this go? Can you put aside and just accept that no matter what you do, no matter who you get on tape, no matter what story you have, conservative media does not want you, wants nothing to do with you, will not cover you, will not elevate any of your stories, and it doesn't matter what it is. Can you just accept that and focus on real people who want to know what's going on? And so I got myself to a place where I was like, I have an amazing audience. I have an incredible audience. I am so blessed with the audience that I have. You guys support my work. You support it financially. You appreciate my work. You value my work. I have a much bigger platform than the vast majority of people doing this stuff. And you guys actually care. And so I got myself to a place where I was like, it doesn't fucking matter if they cover my stories. It doesn't matter. And that sucks. It sucks that I have to work exponentially harder than so-called like fucking conservative journalists who don't actually do journalism, but they happen to be friends with the right people. Or they stick to the approved talking points and the approved script. It sucks, man. It sucks. I literally felt for a long time like I was putting myself in a position of needing to sell my soul to get my work covered. Because I know that if I just stuck to the script and I stuck to the talking points, then this wouldn't be a problem. But I refuse to do that. I refuse to cover for people. I refuse to not tell people the truth, to hide the things that are inconvenient, and the price, or to take, and I will take an unpopular position, man. I will take the position that I do not support what Israel is doing in Palestine. I think they are genociding the Palestinians. And that has lost me a lot of people, man. That has lost me a lot of conservative influencers who all support Israel and don't like anyone that doesn't. Because Israel to them is more important than the truth. And so I just had to accept that. And I did because I was able to make this work without them. But I got to tell you guys, like when stuff like this happens, it hurts every single time. Because it's like spitting, it's like someone spitting in my face over and over and over again, where they know what they're doing. They know it's unethical. They know they're grifter shills on the internet, and they just don't care. And the thing that hurts the worst is when I get all sorts of, I've had people in my DMs today going, Carlin, don't try to take credit for your work. Don't do it, Carlin. You know, people don't like it when you come in and you try. I swear to God, my DMs have been flooded. Don't try to take credit for your work, Carlin. Just thank them for covering your work. Don't try to take credit for it. I don't know why you need credit for it. I don't know why you're doing this. I literally will have conservatives beg me to not take credit for my own work. I have a mountain of replies, and I blocked all of them. People are like, you're more concerned with getting credit than you are with this story. Maybe you should just be thankful that the story was covered. That's what like really pisses me off. And anytime I've talked to you guys about the fact that I feel unvalued for what I'm doing, anytime I tell you guys I feel like people don't value my work, it's because I will literally have an inbox of like a dozen messages from random people who I have never heard from, who don't support my work or any of that, saying you shouldn't be trying to take credit for it. And I got one today. It was like, I worked in corporate media, and let me tell you, they don't like it when you reply saying that you broke this story first. I give a fuck what the corporate media wants. Like I give an ever loving F what the corporate media wants. The reality is this. There aren't many people out there doing what I'm doing. There aren't enough of us. There are way more stories to tell than I could ever possibly tell. There is way more stuff to sift through that can ever possibly be sifted through. There's more than enough for everyone. There's more than enough crazy stuff going on in the world for everyone to cover it. But when conservatives are actually like defending the people who are stealing from other people and then claiming they are the great defenders of individual liberties, it's just like, shut the fuck up. So, I do not accept the excuse from Redux magazine that because I didn't perform the journalism the way that Anna wanted me to do journalism, that doesn't count and she totally has an exclusive. Trust me, bro. Like I have a really like blunt question for Anna. When the fuck did you start paying my salary? I'm serious. Because why is the editor of Redux magazine, who is pretending she has an exclusive on a story that I broke 4 days before her, why is the editor of Redux magazine pretending that she has some sort of approval over my journalism? Like, because I haven't gotten a paycheck from you guys, Anna. I don't even know who the fuck you are. So you saying that because I didn't do journalism the way that you wanted me to do journalism, and that means that you definitely had an exclusive, trust me, bro, pinky swear? Where the fuck's my paycheck then? Because the only way you have approval over my work, Anna, is if you are paying for my fucking time. So there's that. So you guys know where the story came from. It came from Gabrielle Clark, who gave it to me first, who then I broke the story on Twitter 4 days ago, posted about it on my Substack, did a stream about it on my YouTube channel, and anyone else telling you that they have any sort of goddamn exclusive over this story is trying to sell you something that isn't real. I have no problem with Redux magazine covering this story. I think it is great that they reached out to the parents. I think it is great that they looked at all that medical information, didn't report anything differently than what I reported, by the way. Reported nothing differently than what I reported. But I'll give her credit for talking to the family and getting the medical information. But what I think sucks and is bullshit for a feminist magazine to do is claim they had an exclusive over something that they did not. It just seems a little disingenuous to be a feminist magazine throwing female independent journalists under the bus unnecessarily, because if they just hadn't called it an exclusive, and if the editor of REDUXX magazine hadn't pretended that she had some approval over my journalism because I didn't do it in the way that she wanted me to do it, and therefore I didn't actually cover it in the first place, I would have no issue here. But you don't have approval over me, Anna, and if you want approval over me, you can send me a fucking check. And then we'll see. I'll see if the check is big enough that I'm willing to relinquish approval over you to do journalism the way you want me to do it. But until that check is in my hand and until I agree to trade my journalism for the amount of money on that check, you don't have approval over anything. Am I being unreasonable? I don't think I'm being unreasonable. And for all the conservatives who are whining in my Twitter DM saying, why are you making a big deal out of this, Carla? Why can't you just let other people claim credit for your work? Why is this a big deal? Why do you have to be so mean? Why do you have to have such a tone? Why do you have to swear? Oh my word. The reality is this. If you want independent journalism done, then someone needs to pay for it. And because I am in a position of prioritizing telling the truth over the feelings of the conservative fucking Twitterati, I have to have grassroots funding for every single thing that I do. Yeah. Where were you guys 4 days ago? Where were you guys? If I can't get my work out there, then I can't get funding for what I do, which means the journalism isn't going to happen anymore. And if people like me stop doing independent journalism, then what stories are your influencers going to steal pretending that they were the ones that found it? If people like me don't exist, Libs of Tik Tok doesn't exist, guys. You think that Libs of Tik Tok is still spending all her time searching around TikTok for cringe videos? No, they get sent this stuff now. They don't have to find any of this stuff. They just get sent this stuff and then they repost things that people send them, and that's what it is. That's it. Do you know how easy my job would be if people just sent me all these stories and I didn't have to go dig this stuff up, and I didn't have to watch hours of diversity training every fucking week, and I didn't have to watch hours of socialism every week, and I didn't have to read through mountains of documents every week? Do you know how easy this would be? But no, I don't want to do that. I want to get into deeper stories than that I think are more impactful. And so this is the lot that I've created for myself. But the journalism that I do creates the stories that your influencers are going to steal tomorrow and claim as theirs. And if you don't fund them, because all of this costs money, and I'm not working for you for free, conservatives, then the journalism is just going to stop happening. And so I've had a lot of people thanking me for posting the video. Again, make sure you're following Gabrielle Clark, because I'm not going to steal fucking clout from her. I got the video from Gabrielle Clark, which I said in the original tweet. If you notice my original tweet, I tagged both Gabs and I tagged her business, because that is where the story came from. And REDUXX magazine damn well should have done the same. The story came from Gabrielle Clark. It came from Affirming Reality. I wrote that in the tweet. I wrote it in the article. I wrote it, or I said it on the stream I did about it. I don't fucking steal clout from other people. If I get stories from somewhere else, I'm going to credit those people if they want to be credited. They don't always want to be credited. But this isn't hard. And the amount of whining and crying over the fact that I broke a story 4 days before your conservative influencers got to it and I'm not supposed to talk about that, it's so ridiculous. And it's so unbecoming. Conservatives really believe that journalism happens for free. And REDUXX magazine and Anna, the feminist editor-in-chief, are just pissed off that I got it before them. That's what's going on. And accounts like Libs of Tik Tok will purposefully refuse to share things that I break, even if they know about them, because I'm not in the club of conservatives who all support Israel. And they will instead wait for another one of their friends to break the story. And instead of elevating the original journalism that broke it, they will elevate their friends. Even if it means waiting several days for things to pan out, even if it means farming the story over to someone to say, did you hear about this? Why don't you cover this story so I can cover it? That's the reality. That's the reality. That's the reality of conservative media. It is a boys' club. And if you are not in the club, you are not in the fucking club. And you're not in the club if you don't support Israel. Does everyone understand? No, this isn't even about that, Jason. This is not about leftist journalism. This is about conservative journalism. Yes, that is called a circle jerk. Exactly. Exactly. Well, that's thing number 1 today. Yeah. And sometimes the things I do don't get covered by them at all because I'm not in their fucking club. And I've accepted that. Fine. But this is why, guys, when I beg you to do basic things like mount the like button, when I beg you to share stuff, it's because my work is never going to be elevated. The stories I cover are never going to be elevated unless average people share them, unless average people take the time to do it. And don't make the assumption that because your conservative influencers aren't sharing things, that it's not valuable. They ignore, like, one of the biggest black pills that I've ever taken is understanding how many stories your conservative influencers ignore. It is mind-boggling the types of stories that conservative media ignores and will never acknowledge and cover raging bullshit that they've covered over and over and over and over and over again instead. It would blow the amount of like autistic sex education. One of the most egregious stories that I've ever covered got basically zero coverage in conservative media. Basically zero. And it's not because it's not newsworthy. It is newsworthy. But they refused to cover it. They refused. That's why, guys, you've got to support independent journalism. If you have journalists you like, and I'm not just saying me, then make sure you are funding them. I could be doing corporate consulting right now, making $8,000 to $10,000 a day. That's the reality. I sometimes dream about that all the time. But I'm doing this instead because I think that this is more important right now. And so if you want me to keep doing it, please head over to my Substack, pick up a monthly or annual membership, $8 a month or $80 a year. If I can get like 400 new either monthly or annual members, that is going to give me a really big pot of change. And I've been making this list lately of all of these conferences that are happening in 2024. There are a lot of events happening in 2024 I want to go undercover at. Like a lot. And what in my dream world, if I can get the resources to do this, in my dream world, I do a whole tour of these conferences and just go like ping one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. Because there's a whole bunch of them. They're all like, I could literally hop from city to city to city to city to city, go to all these conferences, get all this undercover stuff, give us so much information about what's coming next that we don't know about yet. But I can't do it if people are not funding it. I will never get support from the establishment, guys. It won't happen. It will only happen with people like you. And so if you can support my work, please consider doing so. I will show you the stories that no one else is showing you. And if you want to make a one-time gift instead of monthly or annual, you can head over to my main website, activelyunwoke.com/support. I cover more of this than anyone else on the planet, and I do it on a shoestring budget. And I really hope I can get some more supporters this year. And if I can get to that number, then it's really fucking on. But there's one more story I wanted to tell you guys about. And this is Beth, you're leaving? Beth, the next thing I wanted to talk about involved you. Oh no. There's one more thing I wanted to tell you guys about before we wrap up for today. It's going to be a shorter stream today because I have something to do at 7. Oh, by the way. I forgot to say this. Not all conservatives suck. Harley Dylan, who ran for DNC chair last year, who is awesome. Harley Dylan subscribed to my work on Twitter. And I'm really happy because Harley knits the best sweaters and she's awesome. And so I literally saw this pop up on my notifications right before I went live. I was like, oh shit, Harmeet! Harmeet retweeted the story. She liked it. She absolutely should have won the RNC chair. No, we're going to do that next, Sienna. And now she's supporting my work. And so if it's good enough for Harley Dylan, maybe it's good enough for other people too. But I was really happy about that. That's awesome. And I really do appreciate it, Harmeet. Thank you. I'm a big fan. I think she's great. Harmeet knows how to play politics so well. She does all the things that I know how to do, but that I refuse to do because I feel like it goes against my entire sense of self. But she knows, she's so good at it and she's so smart. And I just like, I'm not just saying this. I actually really do respect Harmeet. Harmeet is one of the people that like, I'm like, if there were a dozen of her, it would be like a whole, and they were all running the RNC, it'd be a whole different ball game. So I did appreciate that. But there is one more thing that I want to talk to you guys about, and it's about, I triggered trigonometry. I didn't even try. I literally didn't even try to do this. So yesterday, I was dinging around Twitter. And so we have to go back. Well, okay, I'll tell this. So yesterday I was dinging around Twitter and I was looking at my friend Jeff Charles's timeline. And I was just scrolling through it because Jeff had some conversations with people and I wanted to like get a sense of it. And I was scrolling through Jeff Charles's timeline and he had retweeted Constantine, but I couldn't see it. And I was like, did fucking Constantine block me? And yes, how I found out about this, and because I wasn't following Constantine anymore, and we're going to talk about why. How I found out about this is I was literally scrolling through someone else's timeline and I noticed that I couldn't see Constantine's tweets anymore. And I was like, oh, I triggered trigonometry. Oh my word. Oh my word. Now, how did this happen? Because I was on trigonometry back in the day. Trigonometry, hang on, I think I'm frozen. Am I still frozen? Oh no. Okay, I think I'm back. Good. What happened is my computer was changing over to nighttime mode. That's what happened. Anyway, so I was on trigonometry back in the day. I was on Triggernometry back when I was the conservative darling, when they were trotting me around as the Democrat who went to the Trump rally, and I was held up as this mythical being of like, oh my God, guys, we got one. This was before I was really expressing my own opinions, because there were bigger picture things going on in 2020, and I was like, I'm going to keep a lot of my opinions to myself. I'm going to play the game. I'm going to say the talking points, like whatever, because I wanted Trump to get elected in 2020, and I was like, this is not the time to have an opinion about this. And so I kept a lot of stuff to myself, and it was only after Trump left office that I was like, here is what I think about reason like X, Y, B, and Z. So I was on Triggernometry when I was still on the good list, because I was following the talking points and I was saying the things that people wanted me to say. And so I was on the good list back in the day. And then I started digging into socialism and did a lot with that. Obviously, people who've been following me for years know. Hang on, let me take a drink of water. Just spilled water all over my keyboard. That's great. So after Trump left office, I started doing happy hour streams. I started doing deep dives into diversity training. That led to us doing deep dives into socialism. I reverse engineered like socialist language. I've covered more far left socialism than pretty much everyone else on the internet for the last couple of years. And a lot of my audience would ask me, they would say, Carlin, why don't you go on Triggernometry? Because my audience is always like trying to get me to go on shows and stuff. And I'm like, I don't really want to go on shows. That didn't work out so well for me the last time. It kind of fucked up my life, because it did. And it's not fun to go on shows when you don't look the way they want you to look, because basically what happens is no one actually listens to what you say. They just comment on how fat and ugly you are for 3 hours. And I'm like, I don't really want to do that. And so I don't really make a proactive effort to go on shows, which drives my audience crazy, because they're like, we want to see you talk to these people and that people and this people over here. And I'm like, I know you do, but I don't really want to. Anyway, so my audience was like, Carlin, why don't you go on Triggernometry? And I was like, I don't think they want me on that show, knowing that Constantine is one of the people that plays the conservative game. Constantine knows exactly the things to say. He doesn't step out of line. He follows the approved talking points, all this stuff. And so I kind of like brushed it off for like a long ass time. And I said, I was just like, I don't really think they want me on. I wasn't making a big thing of it, whatever. Well, a couple of months ago, Beth, who is a loved and valued member of my community, ended up on some sort of live stream with the Triggernometry guys, where she asked them, she was like, have you seen what Carlin is working on? Because you guys should really talk to Carlin. And I didn't put her up to this or anything. I didn't know this was happening, but it was just one of those things where my audience had been haranguing me to try to go on shows. And I was like, eh. And they were trying to make it happen. Like, God bless you guys, honestly. And when Beth asked Constantine, have you seen what Carlin's been working on? Constantine replied something to the effect of, oh, well, I just see Carlin getting in a lot of fights with people. Now, this was funny, because when Constantine said I was getting in a lot of fights with people, I mean, the people that I was primarily fighting with were socialists. So it was a little confusing to me, because I was like, what? Either Constantine is completely ignoring what I'm actually doing and ignoring that the people I'm fighting with are socialists, or he's bought into the bullshit smear campaigns that conservatives have spread about me. One or the other. And so I reached out to Constantine, and I'm going to show you guys the DMs. I didn't show you guys the first time. Now I'm going to show you the DMs. Because if Constantine wants to act like a fucking leftist, then I'll act like a leftist too. I never said this was private information. So when Beth asked Constantine, do you know what Carlin's working on? And Constantine was like, well, Carlin just gets in a lot of fights with people, and that's all that Carlin does. She just gets in a lot of fights with people. I sent Constantine a DM. And this is when he was still following me on Twitter, because he had been following me since I was on their show. And I said, "Hi, Constantine. My community member told me they spoke to you and you said I had conflict on Twitter. I didn't know they were going to do that. For reference, the conflict on Twitter was a group of people gang stalking me, true, smearing me and harassing me throughout every part of my life for 3 years because they were pissed off that my platform grew when theirs didn't. I documented all of this if it's something you want to know. But the important part is that while they were doing this, I was reverse engineering what's going on with the left and how they did what they did. I spent 3 years going into far left socialist spaces, including going undercover at their events and developing ways to easily explain to people what was going on and where it's coming from. Here's a summary of my best work from this past year. I've done more undercover and independent journalism than anyone in the space in the last year. I always find it bizarre when people let Twitter nonsense overshadow real work, but here we are. Anyway, hope you're well and congrats on all your success." Did anyone have a problem with what I wrote? Because I feel like I was on my best behavior. I feel like I acknowledged the nonsense that Constantine was referring to when he publicly said, all Carlin does is get into fights with people on Twitter. And then I said, here's a list, Constantine, of the actual work that I did, just to give him something that he could look at really simply to see a bunch of my stories that I'd covered, because, you know, Constantine is very much against socialism, allegedly. Constantine's family grew up in a socialist environment. Constantine wrote a whole book on being against socialism. Constantine absolutely and unequivocally cares more about beating back the woke cultural revolution than anyone in this country. And so I kind of thought maybe Constantine, I know he really cares about this type of stuff. He obviously and truly sincerely cares about this type of stuff. Maybe he just hasn't seen my work in the area. It's possible. People are busy. There's lots of content out there. So I sent him my top stories of 2023 that I wrote this list in my Substack, and I said, here's what I've been working on. And then Constantine replied, and he says, "Hey, Carlin, from memory." And it was on a live stream where we were off our faces, where we are off our faces usually. Someone asked us about having you on the show, and we said yes. We've already had you on, and it was a great conversation. And then I mentioned that I see you regularly because you're often feuding with people on Twitter. I didn't mean it in any sort of critical way. People could and do say the same about me too. And yes, Prometheus, I thought this was interesting. Because you're right, Prometheus. Dave Rubin said exactly the same thing to me. Exactly the same thing. When I was, and this was literally right after the socialism conference, when I was fighting with socialists on Twitter, Dave Rubin said, "Carlin, I only ever see you fighting with people on Twitter, and I don't want that stuff in my timeline." Now, coincidentally, that was also in response to me telling Nick Fuentes that Dave Rubin was calling people to try to get them fired from their jobs for not taking the correct position on Israel. And then Dave Rubin said he unfollowed me on Twitter because I was always fighting with people, and he didn't want to see that in his timeline. So isn't it funny that Constantine has exactly the same talking point as Dave Rubin when the people that I was fighting with on Twitter are literally socialists? But again, I thought that maybe Constantine just didn't fully read what I sent him. He didn't have a moment to look at the carefully curated list of articles of my unique independent journalism from the last year. And I responded back to him and I said, well, I guess I'm saying that I suppose it's kind of shocking to me that that's the thing that stands out most, since I do significantly more than defend myself from the nonsense others choose to sling my way. So I thought I might pass along the substance of what I've been doing for clarification, which comes across loud and clear in my feed as well. No one on the internet is doing what I'm doing, which is true. And I'm years ahead of anyone in the anti-woke space in terms of what they're doing and what comes next. If you're not interested, my mistake, all the best. And you can see in the message, Constantine put a little heart on it, because even though he didn't bother to actually look at the thing I sent him, because he's more worried about optics than reality, he didn't want me to think otherwise, obviously, so he put a little heart next to it. And then immediately after that, Constantine unfollowed me on Twitter. And then, but I unfollowed him too. Because I was kind of like, well, Constantine doesn't want to follow me. I don't really care to follow him. This is just like a lost thing. It doesn't matter. Because I had already kind of like accepted in my head. I was like, these guys are never going to have me on their show. They don't actually care about this stuff. Constantine can write all the fucking books he wants about being anti-socialist. But when it comes right down to it, Constantine doesn't even know what's going on. And he doesn't care to. He's proven that. So if they don't care what's going on, then I don't care to be involved in their watered down, I'm going to save the West for liberalism bullshit. There is no universe in which Konstantin Kisin is going to save the West and liberalism. That's not going to happen. It's all a branding exercise because he doesn't know what's going on. He can wax philosophical. He can talk about these higher level things that are acceptable within the Overton window. But he doesn't know what's actually going on, and he refuses to look. And I know he refuses to look because I literally sent him the things that he could look at, and he refused to fucking look. And so I was like, oh, you guys are just failed comedians that have a gig, huh? Just like Dave Rubin. Just like Dave Rubin. It's always the failed comedians that you got to watch out for. Because they're just doing it because they couldn't be successful as comedians. But they can be successful grifting off of conservative audiences. Right? You guys see that, right? There's a lot of failed actors and failed comedians that are wildly successful conservative influencers that don't actually care about the things that they're talking about. Dave Rubin literally wrote an entire book about being against cancel culture. But when push came to shove and people had opinions on Israel that he didn't like, he picked up the phone and called their bosses and tried to get them fired. So they can say one thing publicly all they want, but it is just a branding exercise, guys. That is all it is. It is a PR campaign. And that was really the last interaction I had with Constantine was that DM. He unfollowed me. I unfollowed him. I went about my life. I focused on my journalism, focusing on my stuff. Didn't think hell or high water from him. Didn't respond to him on Twitter. Didn't interact with him on Twitter. Didn't even look at what he was tweeting about, honestly. And then yesterday, I'm scrolling through Jeff Charles's timeline because I find Jeff Charles to be a lot more valuable than I find Konstantin Kisin. And Jeff Charles had happened to retweet Konstantin Kisin. and I saw that I couldn't see the retweet, and that was when I found out that he blocked me. So something happened, and Konstantin Kisin got his liberal panties in a twist and proactively sought me out to block me because I literally triggered trigonometry. I triggered trigonometry. That actually happened. Wasn't even trying to do it. Wasn't on my list because there were other things that were far more interesting to me. But I've reached a level of like my triggering guru-ness that I don't even have to try anymore, apparently. Apparently, like if you know you're a grifter shill, and you know that I will eventually figure out that you're a grifter shill, and I will call your ass on the carpet for pretending to care about the far left and then not doing anything to actually understand them in reality. Even just that knowing is enough to get someone like Konstantin Kisin to proactively seek me out to block me. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Authenticity is the ultimate trigger. You know, I'll take it as a badge of pride. Yeah, Fenderbean says, this frustrates me so much. Like, this has been one of the, like, it's blackpilling really, because it's like, I was so naive during 2020. I was so naive. Back when I knew all these people, back when they were more than happy to lift me up as this mythical figure of the Democrat who went to the Trump rally, I was so naive about who these people were and what they were doing. I legitimately thought that these people cared about the topics that they claimed to care about. And to find out just over and over and over and over and over and over again that none of these fucking conservative grifters care about anything other than money and status and fame and clout and clicks and retweets and those Elon Twitter bucks. None of them care about any of this. They don't care about any of it. So that's all I have, guys. That's all I've got for today. I triggered trigonometry and I got Redux to I don't know. Maybe that is a good day's work. We'll leave it at that. All right, guys. Now, this is Monday, so what that means is that I have a supporter call in half an hour. And basically, if you're not a supporter of my work, this is a great time to become one. A, because you're going to fund real journalism and not bullshit on Twitter. But B, Mondays at 7 p.m. and on Wednesdays at noon, I have supporter Zoom calls. You can get access to the supporter Zoom call by heading over to this newsletter, the Unwoke Roundup. And what you need to do is scroll all the way down to the bottom. And underneath this red box right here, you're going to find links to the community Zooms. You're going to find the link to the supporter Discord, where we do movie nights on Sunday nights. This Sunday night, we're watching Dangerous Beauty, which is one of my favorite movies. I'm so excited about this. We're moving into February. It's Love Month. And we're watching Dangerous Beauty tonight, or not tonight, Sunday. And so you can get access to that by going to the supporter Discord. There are other perks as well. But head over, guys, sign up, and I will see you guys in about half an hour for our call. And I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And we're just going to get back to the business of doing real journalism. You guys want to help me do some journalism? You guys want to help me do some research? We'll do it ourselves. Conservatives don't want to fucking do this shit. Conservative influencers just want to steal from other people. We'll do it ourselves. We'll do it ourselves. I'll be back here at 5 p.m. tomorrow where we'll do some journalism. And who knows, we might uncover the next story that Redux magazine claims is theirs in real time. All right, guys, that's all I have. We'll see you later. Bye.